Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sister Dar coming to you with a new revelation. In today's show, we're going to discuss the origins of Freemasonry and who was the first Mason according to the Bible. I want to start reading here in 1 Kings chapter 9. We're going to start at verse 1 here. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished the building of the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all Solomon's desire which he was pleased to do, that the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and thy supplication, that thou hast made before me. I have hallowed this house which thou hast built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. And if thou wilt walk before me as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded thee, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David thy father, saying, There shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel. But if ye shall at all turn from following me, ye or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I gave them, and this house, which I have hallowed for my name, will I cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. And at this house, which is high, every one that passeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and they shall say, Why hath the Lord done thus unto this land, and to this house? And they shall answer, Because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods, and have worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath the Lord brought them upon them all this evil. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, the house of the Lord and the king's house. Now listen here carefully, folks. Verse 11. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and fir trees, and with gold, according to all his desire. That then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Okay, so there's an exchange here between this king of Tyre and King Solomon. So Tyre furnishes some building materials for the Lord's house or the temple, and Solomon's house, in exchange for Solomon giving him 20 cities out of the land of Galilee. Verse 12. And Hiram came out from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. Okay. And it says, and he said, What cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother? And he called them the land of Kabul until this day. And Hiram sent to the king 60 talents of gold. So I want you to keep tabulation of how much gold is going to be donated to King Solomon in his first year as we read through this chapter. So far, King Solomon has received 6 talents of gold, which is 120,000 talents of gold. And he receives this from Hiram. And this is the reason of the levy which King Solomon raised, for to build the house of the Lord and his own house, and Milo in the wall of Jerusalem, and Hazor, and Megiddo, and Gezer. For Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer, and burnt it with fire, and slain the Canaanites that dwelt there in the city, and given it for a present unto his daughter Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer and Beth Horon the nether, and Baalath. Doesn't that sound like Bill there? Okay, so Solomon builds in Baalath and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land, and all the cities of store that Solomon had, and cities for his chariots, and cities for his horsemen, and that which Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem and in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people that were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel also were not able to utterly destroy, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bondservice unto this day. So they became Solomon's slaves. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no bondmen, but they were men of war, and his servants, and his princes, and his captains, and rulers of his chariots and of his horsemen. Okay, so now we learn here that there's a difference between bondmen and servants. Okay, so the Canaanites and the people who were there in the land prior to Israel coming, they made into slaves or bondmen, and then uh, of the children of Israel, they were given different jobs and were servants. So a servant is someone who's paid for their work. Bondmen are not paid. Okay, those are slaves. Verse 23, these were the chief of the officers that were over Solomon's work, 550 which bear rule over the people that wrought in the work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up out of the city of David into her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then did he build Milo. And 3 times in a year did Solomon offer burnt offerings and peace offerings upon the altar which he built unto the Lord. And he burnt incense upon the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the house. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion-Geber, which is beside Elath, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servants, shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir and fetched. Okay, so here's the second batch of gold that King Solomon is getting ready to get from Hiram, which is the king of Tyre. And they came to Ophir and fetched from thence gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon. Okay, so now, so far, King Solomon's received 120,000 talents. Now he's getting an additional 420, 420 talents. So now that's at, I'm sorry, he received initially 120 talents of gold. So now he's receiving 420 talents. So that's for a total of 540 talents that he has so far. Okay, so we're at 540 talents. Chapter 10. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with her questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a great train, with camels that bear spices, and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king which he told her not. And the queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom in the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent, by which he went up into the house of the Lord. There was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in mine own land of the acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit, I believed not the words, until I came, and my eyes had seen it, and behold, the half was not told to me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighteth in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king, to do judgment and justice. And she gave the king, okay, here's his third donation, 120 talents of gold. Okay, so now he's at 660 talents of gold, and of spices, very great store, and precious stones. And there came no more such abundance of spices as these which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house harps also, and psalteries for the singers. There came no such almug trees, nor were seen unto this day. And King Solomon gave unto the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. Now listen carefully here. Verse 14. Now the weight of the gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 600 threescore and 6 talents of gold. Now a score equals 20. Okay, so if there are three score, then that means 60 times 3, which is a total of 60. So in his first year, he received in donations of gold 666 talents of gold. Okay, so in other words, his number is 666. Now, I don't want to read this whole thing. I want to skip down here. Let's go to now to chapter 11. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in to you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, which, by the way, is the same thing as Easter or a star or East Star, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as did David his father. And then there is a book out there called The Testament of Solomon. I haven't read it myself, but I heard that it's basically like a book where King Solomon is telling about all of his conversing with different evil spirits and demons and things like that, and being able to use them and control them and learn all about what they can do, how where each one is introducing themselves to him and discussing what their assignment is, and specific sicknesses that they cause in people's bodies and things like that, where he's dealing with different spirits inside of bottles and things like that, and people call those genies in a bottle. So he basically has started to delve into witchcraft, which was what his wisdom was in. Okay, so I'm not recommending for people to read that book, but I'm just letting you know that that book goes into detail about what he was dealing with when it concerns that. And let's see here, verse 7. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. Okay, so um, in the scriptures, the Most High says that Israel were idolizing Molech and that they were worshiping the star of Molech. So that is that six-pointed star that they lie and say is the Star of David. It's really the star of Molech, okay? And Solomon was the one dealing with this star, because why? Because he was following um, after the god of Molech, which he was introduced to through him dealing with these other groups of people and strange wives. Verse 8. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because his heart was turned away from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. And he had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after other gods, but he kept not that which the Lord commanded. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, For as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee, and will give it to thy servant. Notwithstanding, in thy days I will not do it for David thy father's sake, but I will rend it out of the hand of thy son. Howbeit, I will not rend away all the kingdom, but will give one tribe to thy son for David, my servant's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, which I have chosen. And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. He was one of the king's seed in Edom. For it came to pass when David was in Edom, and Joab the son of the host was gone up to bury the slain, after he had smitten every male in Edom. For 6 months did Joab remain there with all Israel, until he had cut off every male in Edom. That Hadad fled, he and certain Edomites of his father's servants with him, to go into Egypt, Hadad being yet a little child. Okay, so back during David's time, um, David and Joab um, had went into Edom and were slaying all of the male Edomites. Okay, um, and some of the male Edomites got away. It says here, and they went to hide in the land of Egypt. Okay, so Hadad is going. The Edomite is going to want revenge now. So he doesn't get revenge during David's time. But we're going to learn here in the next several verses that he's going to get revenge, not even during King Solomon's time, but he's going to try to get revenge in King Solomon's son's time, based on what David and the captain of the host Joab had done. Verse 18, and they arose out of Midian and came to Paran, and they took men with them out of Paran, and they came to Egypt unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, which gave them an house, and appointed him victuals, and gave him land. And Hadad found great favor in the sight of Pharaoh, so that he gave him to wife the sister of his own wife, the sister of Taphanes the queen. And the sister of Taphanes bare him Genubath his son, whom Taphanes weaned in Pharaoh's house, and Genubath was in Pharaoh's house among the sons of Pharaoh. And when Hadad heard in Egypt that David slept with his fathers, and that Joab the captain of the host was dead, Hadad said to Pharaoh, Let me depart, that I may go to my own country. Then Pharaoh said unto him, But what hast thou lacked with me, that behold, thou seekest to go back to thine own country? And he answered, Nothing. Howbeit, let me go in any wise. And God stirred him up another adversary, Rezon, the son of Eliadah, which fled from his lord Hadadezer, king of Zobah. And he gathered men unto him, and became captain over a band, when David slew them of Zobah, and they went to Damascus, and dwelt there, and reigned in Damascus. And he was an adversary to Israel all the days of Solomon, beside the mischief that Hadad did, and he abhorred Israel and reigned over Syria. Okay, so these old enemies are remembering how David and his men had slaughtered them back in the day, and so now they're starting to organize and things like that during Solomon's time. Okay, verse 26, and Jeroboam the son of Nabat, an Ephrathite of Zereda. Okay, so this is an Israelite from the tribe of Ephraim. Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite came to him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment. And they two were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him, and rent it, or ripped it into 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, Take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee, or to you. But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all of the tribes of Israel. Okay, so the prophet Ahijah is prophesying how the Most High is getting ready to break the kingdom into two. They're going to end up breaking into the northern kingdom, and the southern kingdom. And so here the Most High is saying that he's going to give the northern kingdom, which encompasses 10 tribes, to Jeroboam. And he's only going to leave um King Solomon's son with just the tribe of Judah. Now let's continue here with verse 33. Because that they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians. Okay, so he's telling you why he's going to divide the kingdom. It says because Solomon had them what? Worshipping Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Shamash, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son I will give one tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen to put my name there. And I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desireth, and shalt be king over Israel. And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that which is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. And I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, and Shishak, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Okay, so Solomon heard about the prophecy and tried to kill Jeroboam. So Jeroboam had to hide in Egypt until Solomon died. And the rest of the acts of Solomon and all that he did in his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon? And the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem, all over all Israel, was 40 years, and Solomon slept with his fathers. Okay, so now I want to get more into. Okay, so we learned that in his first year after the temple and his house were built, that King Solomon had received in donations of gold 666 talents of gold. Okay, so then later, um, the Most High is going to rend the kingdom in two and give 10 of the tribes to Jeroboam. And then those of you who are familiar with the story of the 10 tribes in the north, they also did not keep the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, and they were eventually led away captive by the Assyrians, okay? And they never returned into the land. So that was actually the fulfilling of the prophecy where it says in Thessalonians, let's go here to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. We beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter, as from us, as the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So I'm going to show you that this prophecy did not happen in Paul's time. This prophecy had already happened, okay? Because we just got done reading that King Solomon defied the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. He began to worship demons and do witchcraft. His number was 666, because we also learned in the Bible that the man of sin's number is 666, and I think that's in Revelations. Let me get it one second. So Revelation chapter 13 verse 18 says, if one is wise and has any understanding to count the number of the beast, which is also the number of a man, the number comes to 666. Okay, so that's the clue right there, that Solomon was the son of perdition. And it also tells you here in Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, that that Christ would not come in, except that there had came a great falling away first after this son of sin was revealed. Okay, so if we think in terms of First Kings chapter 9, 10, and 11 that we just read, if Solomon is the son of perdition and identified him with the number 666, it shows how he was worshiping different demons and things like that. And then what happens after him? There was the kingdom was rent into two, and then there's a great falling away where the 10 of the tribes are taken out of the land. Okay, which are the 2/3, where the Bible says that 2/3 will be cut off, and the other third remaining in the land. That 2/3 that got cut off was talking about the 10 northern tribes. Okay, so that's the great falling away that came first. Okay, so this prophecy here in Second Thessalonians says, so once those two things happen, then Christ's day would be at hand. So then you have the prophecy in Daniel chapter 9, with the 70 weeks, and how the temple was being rebuilt even in troublous times. So, and how the Messiah will come in the 69th week, and then he will be cut off in the middle of that week. So that actually his day, or the day of Christ, actually took place after the great falling away of the northern tribe, and then after the southern tribe, or Judah, is taken off into the Babylonian captivity. They're given grace one last time, and the Most High permits them to return to the land and to rebuild the temple the second time. But they screw up again, and they're still committing different witchcrafts and things like that. And so what? And then they end up having the Messiah put to death. And so then God takes them out of the land permanently after that. So let's get that. Daniel chapter 9. So let's go down to verse 24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Okay, so this was the Most High telling them, I'm just giving you 70 weeks to get yourselves together. Okay, and of course the 70 weeks is not 70 weeks in our time, how we count 70 weeks. This is actually a longer time period. This would have been I think 400 and I think it's 490 years or something like that, but it would have been from the time of the Babylonian captivity, um, where and when they were permitted to return to the land to rebuild, up until Jesus came. That was a 400 something odd year period. Okay, so that is what this verse is saying. Verse 26: and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The people of the prince that came was the people of Rome. Okay, they came and destroyed the city and the sanctuary after the Messiah was cut off. Okay, so that is Second Thessalonians 2, all in a nutshell. So the Messiah is revealed after what? After first the son of perdition is revealed, which was King Solomon, and then two, after there was a great falling away, or the 2/3 of Israel being carried off out of the land, and then they get grace for 70 weeks, and they screw that up, They keep committing all types of evils and transgressions until they do the final transgression, which is to kill the anointed, the most holy. Okay, so then that's the reason why the Most High allowed the people, the prince or the Romans, to come in, destroy the city and the sanctuary. And it says, "And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end the war, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined." Okay, so these desolations that would begin after the Romans came and destroyed the sanctuary in the city would be for a time, times and a half a time, and we don't know what that translates into in our years. Okay, so however long that is, that's how long that there are going to be wars and desolations against our people until the Most High is satisfied. Verse 27: "And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week." That's talking about the people of the prince or the Romans. They will confirm the covenant with many for a week, and in the midst of the week, so for a 3.5 year period, and then in the middle of the week, they shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. So when they came and destroyed the temple and things like that, they stopped Israel from being able to do those animal sacrifices and sacrifices. Period. They weren't able to do those anymore, and it says so they caused that to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. So what that's saying is because Israel had an overspreading of abominations, he allowed the Romans to make the land desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So people always want to point to how wicked Rome and things are like that. But actually, this is talking about how wicked and evil Israel was, and how because of their overspreading of abominations and wickedness, that the Most High sent in Rome to stop these abominations and to stop these sacrifices and things like that, and to pour out wrath onto them for a period of time. Okay, so I don't know how this how Paul is now in Second Thessalonians chapter 2 talking about a prophecy not yet being fulfilled that was already fulfilled when he came on the scene after the Messiah had already came and left. So I don't know what he's talking about. Like this is a future prophecy that had already taken place. The son of perdition had already been revealed. The great falling away had already happened, and Christ had already came and died. Okay, so from that point after Christ's death, even up into our time now, we're in the part where it's just wars and desolations, war and desolation. We're already all the way at the end here of verse 27. And how long do those wars and desolations last? We don't know that. The scriptures just say at times, time and a half at times, or whatever, and that's a mystery number. Okay, so now I want to go back into who this king of Tyre or Hiram is that was giving Solomon the gold and things like that, and who Solomon had donated 20 cities of Galilee to. So I want you to now look with me at this information about who um, Hiram is. Who was Hiram Abiff? Okay, so this is a very notable character within Masonry. Okay, so um, they discuss this guy a lot within Freemasonry, and it says Hiram Abiff, an enigmatic figure in history and Freemasonry, is a character whose life and death have inspired various interpretations and allegories. As the legend goes, Hiram Abiff was the master architect and builder of King Solomon's temple, which was, by the way, supposed to be the Most High's temple. Okay, so now we're going to go to Ezekiel chapter 28 to get more insight into who this king of Tyre or Tyrus was. Mind you, Tyre and Tyrus are interchangeable. Okay. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Lord God, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am God, I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of God. Okay, so we had read in Second Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 4 that this son of perdition would oppose and exalt himself above all that is called God or is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Okay, so it's saying that this king of Tyrus or Tyre, that was sitting in God's seat. Okay, so this person was actually physically within the temple of God and telling people that they were God. Okay, so First Kings chapter 9 and 10 does not go into depth about this Hiram guy, but Solomon had to be letting this dude sit in the temple in God's seat, posing as God. Okay, this is who Solomon was paying homage to and worshiping. Okay, he probably was something to do with the architect, because why he was giving the materials for Solomon to build that temple. Okay, and it's saying here in Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 2 that he was a man, but his heart was lifted up and he sat in God's seat. Okay, so this is talking about this is the son of perdition. Okay, or actually we're going to read that this guy is possessed with the devil, the spirit of Satan. Verse 3, Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding thou hast gotten thee riches, and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures. By thy wise wisdom and by thy traffic hast thou increased thy riches, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the strangers of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. They shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the deaths of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. Wilt thou yet say before him that slayeth thee, I am God? But thou shalt be as a man, and no God, in the hand of him that slayeth thee. Thou shalt die the deaths of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, for I have spoken it, saith the Lord God. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation against the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Okay? So now it's starting to get into more of a description of his spirit, and we're going to see that this description is actually the description of Lucifer. So this proves that the king of Tyrus was actually possessed with the spirit of Lucifer. Okay, and this is the guy that King Solomon was learning from and worshiping as God. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Okay, so the serpent was in Eden. Okay, this is what spirit this is referring to. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou was created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Okay, so when you read the description of the Ark of the Covenant, it describes two cherubs on either side of the part where the Most High Spirit will go. So the Most High had two covering cherubs. Okay, so Lucifer was one of those covering cherubs. And it says, "Thou was perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created until iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty, and thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee." Okay, so this is talking about Lucifer falling from his former glory as a covering cherub to now being a mere man that is getting ready to die at the hands of other men. Okay, because now at this point his spirit is possessing the king of Tyre. "Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, and it shall devour thee. And I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee." And that actually took place at the beginning when Lucifer was cast out of heaven. It says they beheld Lucifer falling like lightning. Okay, so the Most High, at the time that he tossed Lucifer out of heaven, this would have looked like a ball of lightning or a falling sun. And then when he crashed to the earth and stuff, he became ashes upon the earth for all to see. Okay, so now the spirit of Satan is now possessing the king of Tyre, and so the Most High is going to what? Kill him all over again as a man now this time. "And they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, and never shalt thou be any more." Okay, so this guy was who Solomon was paying homage to, and who Solomon had allowed to instruct him how to build the temple. Now, let's go to Psalms 118 and verse 22. "The stone which the builders refuse is become the headstone of the corner." Okay, so the Most High, or Christ, is the stone that the builder refused, but he's going to become the headstone of the corner. Okay, so King Solomon refused to build the temple based on the true Most High, and instead let Hiram Abiff and all of these false gods and things like that be the cornerstone, when the Most High was supposed to be the cornerstone. And then we're going to now see what is so important about what a cornerstone's position is and its structure. This says a cornerstone or foundation stone or setting stone is the first stone set in the construction of a masonry foundation. All the other stones will be set in reference to this stone, thus determining the position of the entire structure. Okay? So the cornerstone is the most important stone in a structure. That stone was supposed to be the Most High, but this stone was refused when it came to Solomon's temple. Okay? Solomon built this temple based on the devil, based on Hiram Abiff, which is what the whole religion of Masonry is based upon, who was possessed, who was the king of Tyre, also, that's his other name, who was possessed with Lucifer. Okay? So, Solomon and this Hiram Abiff guy were the sons of perdition that came before the great falling away. And now I want to go into even more wickedness that was being done secretly within the temple. So now let's go to Ezekiel chapter 8. And it came to pass in the 6th year, in the 6th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I sat in my house, and the elders of Judah sat before me, that the hand of the Lord God fell there upon me. Then I beheld, and lo, a likeness as the appearance of fire, from the appearance of his loins even downward, fire, and from his loins even upward, as the appearance of brightness, as the color of amber. And he put forth the form of an hand, and took me by a lock of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven, and brought me in the visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looketh toward the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoketh to jealousy. Okay, so this seat that was toward the north, that's supposed to be the seat that the Most High Spirit is in. But instead of the Most High being there, somebody else is sitting in his chair. Okay, and it says that it's the image of jealousy that provokes to jealousy. So they sitting up here with the king of Tyrus sitting, or basically, and what did we learn earlier in Ezekiel chapter 28? That the king of Tyrus was possessed with Satan. So basically, this is Satan here sitting in God's seat. And Satan had even said he would exalt himself and sit in the side to the north in the Most High's chair. Okay, so this is Satan. And it says in verse 4, and behold, the glory of God of Israel was there, according to the vision that I saw in the plain. Then he said unto me, Son of man, lift up thine eyes now the way toward the north. So I lifted up mine eyes the way toward the north, and behold, northward at the gate of the altar, this image of jealousy in the entry. And he said furthermore unto me, Son of man, seest thou what they do? Even the great abominations that the house of Israel committeth here, that I should go far off from my sanctuary. But turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abominations. And he brought me to the door of the court, and when I looked, behold, a hole was in the wall. And he said unto me, Son of man, now dig now in the wall. And when I digged in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, Go in and behold the wicked abominations that they do here. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping thing and abominable beast, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood between them. Now, when it's saying it is all of these abominable beasts and stuff, and all of the idols that they got, that's talking about the zodiac with those 12 sections, and got an animal in each of the zodiac. This is all of the creeping abominable beasts and idols that they had on the wall. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jazaniah the son of Shaphan, with every man his censer in his hand, and a thick cloud of incense went up. And he said unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark? Every man in the chamber of his imagery? For they say, The Lord seeth us not, the Lord hath forsaken the earth. He said unto me, Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see even greater abominations that they do. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was toward the north, and behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Tammuz was this baby who was born of a virgin, um, and his father was supposed to be a god that had impregnated his mother. Okay, so when people so what these wicked Israelites did throughout time, they conflated the story about Tammuz and his mother with the story of Mary and Jesus. Okay, so you might think that when they're praying and when they're talking about Mary and Jesus, that they're talking about the same Mary and Jesus that you're talking about, but that's not who they're talking about. They're actually talking about this baby named Tammuz that the Most High killed, which was a hybrid, or he was half human and he was half fallen angel. His father was supposed to be basically the devil, and he's known. Him and his father are known in different names depending on what language you're talking about. So in Egyptian history, the father of the child is referred to as Osiris, which, by the way, is the same thing as the devil. And the mother is Isis, and the child is Horus. Okay. So then, of course, Osiris is killed by his brother uh, Set, and then he's cut and his body is dismembered into all of these pieces. But somehow, um, his wife Isis finds some type of way to still get herself impregnated by him, even though he's deceased, with um, the his phallus or that's had been dismembered, and then she gives birth to the son Horus, or in this case, in verse 14 here, Tammuz. Okay, so then that child dies. Okay, and this is a very ancient story. This was actually some stuff that had taken place before the flood, and the Israelites are still worshiping these characters and things like that. So this is what the Most High is showing the prophet Ezekiel, that they're sneaking and crying about this baby born of this virgin named Tammuz. So he's showing you how the women are in the temple crying to this person. Okay, so that's who's that's what the celebration of Christmas is really about. Okay, so they tricked us and lied and said that that was the celebration of Christ, when no, that was talking about Tammuz and the devil this whole time. Verse 15, then said he unto me, thou hast seen this, O Son of Man. Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see even greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs towards the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, and they worshiped the sun toward the east. Okay, so when it says that these priests was worshiping the sun towards the east, what they were doing was they were doing this in remembrance of the anointed cherub that the Most High had tossed out of heaven, way back before their time, which was Lucifer. Okay, so Lucifer was a um, um, bright angel or sun god, um, who was formerly like a sun in the east of the sky. And so they were doing this in remembrance of Lucifer, when before he fell from his glory. So this is the reason why they're facing and worshiping towards the east. So the Most High is has caught them doing that. And then it says in verse 17, then he said unto me, hast thou seen this, O son of man? Is it a light thing to the house of Judah that they commit the abominations which they commit here? For they have filled the land with violence. That's talking about all of those sacrifices and animal slayings and all of that stuff that they were doing, and also human sacrifices, and have returned to provoke me to anger. And lo, they put the branch to their nose. Therefore will I also deal in fury. Mine eyes shall not spare, neither will I have pity. And though they cry in mine ears with a loud voice, yet I will not hear them. Okay, so you can continue reading that chapter on your own, or the next chapters on your own, but it's basically going to go into how the Most High is going to have them slaughtered and have them go into the Babylonian captivity. Okay, so now you see how wicked Israel really is. You got to see the origins of Freemasonry and how that actually started with the king of Tyre, which is Hiram Abiff from Masonry, which taught King Solomon. And you learn that King Solomon was a warlock and he caused Israel to fall off. He was the son of perdition, and he was the man of sin that was revealed, because we saw his number was 666 in First Kings. And then we saw that after this, there was the Most High rent the kingdom into two, and then there was a great falling away. Um, then we saw that there was a grace from the Most High with the southern kingdom, but then they too fell off, and then the Messiah comes. They end up having the Messiah put to death, and so this really infuriates the Most High, and then he does, and then they run out of grace. So grace is all out at that point, at which point he allows the Romans to come in and to cause the land to become desolate and run those wicked Israelites out of there. Okay? So now you know what Freemasonry is. You see how Israel was doing witchcraft the whole time and how they was really worshiping Satan in God's temple. So that concludes our lesson for today. I hope you have learned a new revelation. And until next time, blessings.